I've never played my guitar into an amplifier. And I intend on keeping it that way, because I simply don't have the space for the amp heads and cabs in this tiny space of a studio. And I seriously doubt that my family wants to listen to me blasting palm-muted power chords all night on high gain. On the other hand, I have developed a fondness for pedals over the years, having used them on both the guitar and my synths. But this habit was beginning to take its toll on both my funds and the desk footprint. Luckily, I came across the Boss GT-001, which has a bunch of amp models and pedal emulations in a tiny footprint. In fact, I was so impressed by it that I started selling off my cherished pedals one by one. And right when I was getting ready to upgrade to one of its new cousins, either the GT-1000 or the GT-1000 Core, Boss came out with the GX-100. So I got the GX-100 around the same time that my custom guitar was finished. If you haven't seen that video, be sure to check it out after you watch this. So the two of them have been fast friends ever since. Today, instead of doing a typical gear review, there's plenty of those around. I'm going to play a couple of presets that I've created on the GX-100, while discussing my tone philosophy for creating sounds that shatter ears and ribs. The same process can easily be replicated with other modelers, both software and hardware. So you'll find this video useful even if you're not using the GX-100 per se. And I'll give a couple of universal pointers at the end of the video on putting together a guitar sound that smashes through the mix. Let's chug. This first preset is from the Mushrooms song, Glive. And you'll notice that I'm always running two amps in parallel. So what we've got here is the Maxi, which is a Marshall amp. Then the second one is what Boss calls a Juggernaut, which is their own proprietary amp model, which I really like the sound of. So I've got them mixed, going left and right, but let's see how it sounds first together. So I've got them running on left and right channels, but let's see how they sound on their own. That's a nice and thick, sludgy wall of sound. And after that, it's pretty standard stuff. I do have here the prime phaser, which I initiate here. And I use that on certain parts of the song, but other than that, it's pretty standard stuff. I got the space echo for delay. Love me some space echo. And a small reverb. In terms of the amp settings, so we got a whole bunch of gain, probably more than what's healthy, but I'm going more for sludge than modern metal. But fear not, it goes up to 120, so it can go much higher than that. Keeping it at a nice 93, you can see that it's a very scooped tone. A whole bunch of presence. I mean, I just like that high-end sizzle. Everything else is left to default. The next amp, the Juggernaut, is more of the same. A lot of gain, some scoopiness in the mid, a lot more bass. And again, full-on presence. So you might think that this setup with so much presence and treble and gain will burn your ears off, but that's why I've got this parametric EQ here. So without it. Pretty rattly, but it's a bit more under control now. So let's see what we got going on here. As you can see, I'm adding more scoopiness here with more low gain and more high gain, but I'm giving it a high cut at 5K. And let's see how it would sound without that. It's not too bad, but I prefer it sliced off. And that's much more usable, and I'll even slice it off some more in the mix probably, depending on how it plays along with the other elements of the song. Now this next one is a low gain tone, surprise surprise. I suppose its main feature is the Terra echo. It's an effect that's a bit difficult to describe. I think it's a mix of delay and reverb and filter. Now one thing I noticed is that it's got some sort of high frequency fragments going on, so that's why I got this parametric EQ over here that's doing a high cut at 3.15 kilohertz. If I take that off, you can hear that sizzle at the end. I don't need that. So this gets a bit more under control. Another cool thing about this one is, of course, the chorus. And I'm using the chorus prime from Boss, which has a couple of more options compared to the standard chorus, such as the sweetness and the bell parameters. Another thing I've got in this chain is a flanger. Just gives it a bit more power. And the amp is natural. The settings for the amp are about mid-gain, and everything is pretty much a default. Still, I've got a lot more presence going on here. But I do have another parametric EQ going before the Terra echo. And as usual, that's a high cut. This is one of my favorite presets, and there's quite a bit going on here. So let's dry it up a bit first. So this is without the chorus. This is just the amps. As usual, we got the Juggernaut and the X high gain, which is another Boss proprietary amp model. As usual, I've got them going left and right. So let's hear what they sound with and without. But what really gives this preset life is the chorus. And as you can see, I've got it, well, you can't see, but you can see that the effect level parameter is changing. This is because I'm playing the expression pedal underneath the table. And I've got another interesting thing going on in this patch, which is the T-Wah, which is best described as a filter, I suppose, a filter envelope. Anyway, here's how it sounds. So here's without, and here's with. It just gives it that wow. Wow. Love it, love it. I don't use it that often though. It's only when things get really, really nasty and thick. But overall, I really like this patch, this preset. I use it quite a bit. I just love high gain and chorus. It just really works well together. But I've also been using it quite a bit on my tremolo practicing. Other cool things on it are, well, super cool, man. It's a fucking parametric EQ. Super cool stuff. What the hell is this doing anyway? Oh yeah, it's doing a high cut, as always. Compressor. More parametric EQ. I mean, I just love it. I just love me some EQ at every step of the signal chain. So you see, I'm giving another high cut, but I'm giving it a high mid gain. How would it sound without? No, that's too boxy. That's nice and tight. I like it. I like this patch a lot. Have I said that? I think I might have mentioned that a few times. Sounds good. And as always, delay is space echoed. Nice and long. Everything sounds better with delay always. And I'm using a studio reverb on this one. I wonder why. Almost 4 seconds. Effect level is kind of low. So it's not doing a whole lot. But it's just basically softening off everything and giving it a bit more roominess, or studio-ness in this case. Love it. This is really a cool one. And I mean, imagine if I had to do this with pedals. Like, how many pedals would I need? At first I need, 2 amps. Or maybe I would have like a high quality amp and I could pull it off with just one instead of doing it in parallel. But I mean, you can hear the amps in stereo. You might not know it until I tell you, but it wouldn't sound the same without it. This is probably my most overboard with effects preset. Let's see what we got going on here. As you saw while I was playing, so I've got the expression pedal sending it out to the position of the phaser. It's a lot of fun for playing. What we got here is the classic setup with the Maxi/Marshall and the Boss Juggernaut. Just take a look at what we've got going on with them, but I'm guessing it's going to be, it's scoop to hell. Scoop to hell and back. Lots of gain, lots of fucking treble, lots of presence, not many mids, don't like those mids. And amp 1, even less mids, man, and treble, wow. That's pretty fucking overboard, huh? Doesn't sound that trebly. Doesn't sound that trebly. I mean, it should be much worse because obviously I've got a high cut going on at 4K. That's healthy. How would it sound without? Fucking nasty, I bet. Yeah, a lot of buzzy bees having a fight with raccoons in a trash can. Yeah, nice and mighty. Mighty. Other than that, yeah, pretty simple. No boost pedals at any point. As you can see, it's all just going to the amp, then a bunch of effects. Space echo, 2 space echoes, why the hell not? It just goes really well with the phaser, especially if you're gonna play the position of the phasing frequency. This one's nice and tough. Pretty bassy, nice and thick, very good for palm muted power chords, as everything is. But this one in particular, I think. I like it. By now you know it's going to be a maxi and a juggernaut, but I've got already a parametric EQ going in before the amps. And I'm already doing a high cut. So this is basically as if my guitar has a tone knob, which it doesn't, but here I'm simulating that with an EQ. Just give me a bit more control in the high end, because then I'm going to blast it with a bunch of gain, treble, presence, and you get the idea. I feel like, you know, it's my brain and butter. Brain and butter. Bread and butter, not brains and butter. Although that does sound delicious. But but that's basically the winning formula I found on this device, is get your amps right, scoop them out a bit, give them a bunch of presence. That really helps cut through the mix, especially if you got synths going on, cymbals and everything else in the rest of the song. And just tame it all back with the high cut, because some of those high frequencies are still gonna go through, but you're just making it more manageable in the whole mix. I've got a phaser here as well, which I don't think I ever use. I think I lose a lot of low oomphiness when it's on. Although it's fun. Yeah, but it's good though. It's cool. So as you can see, all the presets are built in similar ways, but they're giving quite different results due to little changes in each of them. This final preset I haven't yet used on a song, but it's just something that I'm experimenting with by putting a bunch of pedals before my typical maxi and juggernaut amp mix. So 2 parametric EQs at the end, but first let's get to the fun stuff here. So I'm boosting it with Boss's own boost and a Big Muff Fuzz. Pretty standard, but once we boost this, gets a bit more definition. And once we add the fuzz in as well, it just gives it that extra nasty, gritty saturation on top of everything else. And this is something that I'm putting together for a more of a stoner sound. So we're talking about some higher up power chords. Kind of revving engine sound, if you will. It can work for lower notes as well, but I'm really targeting it at the octave. Hit the like button if you've made it this far and had a good time. You've probably already picked up on my overall tone philosophy as I was fiddling through the presets. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to redistill it all down to a couple of key points. Use the parametric EQ at any point when you feel that you need to sculpt the sound, and use the tone control on the amps and the effects themselves. But don't do it just for the sake of doing it. Add or subtract based on what you are hearing. And if you're not sure, give your ears a rest and come back tomorrow. Putting one amp in the right channel and a different amp in the left channel is going to give you a massive sound. Similar but not exactly the same as double tracking different guitar takes. Now this may not apply to most genres, but scooping out the mids will still give you the low-end oomph and the high-gain grit, while leaving some extra room in the mix for vocals, synths or other instruments. Give it a try. Throw in an expression pedal and get wild. At first it might feel confusing using both hands and a foot to make sounds happen, but you'll get used to it pretty quickly. And if you map the expression to something weird like effect parameters, you're bound to create some fresh and interesting new sounds as opposed to the same old wah. Not that I have anything against a good wah pedal, it's just that it's been used for over half a century. And there's nothing stopping us from trying out something new. We have the technology. I've got a couple of more videos coming up that will be of interest to you if you're an independent musician. Hit subscribe if you want to stay on top of what's coming up next. And if you want to know more about my guitar and how it was made, this video is for you.